Today we have a webinar on the topic of the role of the executive officers. Now we're not addressing all of the executive members in this video because in fact there are officers and there's the Young BPW Representative and there are 5 regional coordinators for a total of 11. We have separate videos on 2 of those, regional coordinators and Young BPW Representative. So in this video today, we're going to hear about the officers' positions, which are President, Vice Presidents, Executive Secretary, and Executive Finance Officer. Our speakers today are Elizabeth Benham and Dr. Yasmin Darwich, both of whom are past international presidents. Dr. Darwich is our most immediate past president and have a great deal of experience also in other positions on executive prior to becoming president, so they can speak with great authority to all of these roles. We look forward to hearing from them today. Thank you, ladies. The floor is yours.
Good day, everybody. We are back on our series of webinars that we've been doing for educational purposes. And today the topic is going to be the importance of an elected executive and why do we have elected executives. So let's start with that. I am also accompanied by our immediate past president, Yasmin, who is part of the executive, and so is I. So we'll try to give you some insight today as to what we believe the value and the duties are of an elected executive. So the first question is, why do we have an executive in an organization? That's important because they're all elected officers of an executive, and they're there to do a duty for the organization, meaning they have the power, being elected, to do the duties that the organization has required them to do. So the usual offices of an executive, of course, the president. In our case, we have 2 vice presidents, one that has a mandate in charge of membership, and the other one who has a mandate in charge of advocacy, because our organization is very much into advocacy. We have an executive finance officer, usually also known as treasurer, and we also have an executive secretary, in some smaller clubs known as the secretary. And that pretty much does the 5 offices of an organization. So the elected officers really have a job to carry out the mission of the organization. And the mission of business in the International Federation of Business and Professional Women is that we develop the business, professional, and leadership potential of women on all levels. And we promise to do that through advocacy, education, networking, skill building, and economic programs around the world. And that's our mission statement. So when you are elected, that is what is expected of you, is to have a vision to improve on that missions and vision statement. So the next question to ask is, why would you want to be on the executive? Why would you want to be elected to be on the executive? Why would you want to serve as the president? Why would you want to serve as the treasurer or the executive secretary? So there's a big topic of discussion, I think, that we're going to kind of delve down a little deeper into, and we'll come back with that. So at the moment, I'd like to ask Yasmin Darwich to kind of pop in there and give us a little bit of a reason why executives should run for office.
Well, I think that when you want to run for office, you really need to have this desire inside you to give it your time and acknowledge to the organization to make a difference. It's to serve the organization, not to be served, not to be in the picture, not to travel, no, it's what I can do to improve and to ensure the sustainability of this organization. What I can provide that really make a difference. So this is something that you really need to thinking about it, and to learn more about the organization, and be sure that you can fulfill the duties of each for the one for the position that you want to run. And as we all know, now we have the 5 regional coordinators, the 2 vice president, the president, the finance officer, executive secretary, and young BPWs. We already have a webinar about regional coordinators' duties and about young BPW duties. And that is why for us it's important just today to concentrate in the rest of the duties of the executive. But everybody have a role, and even at the local or regional and at the international level, everybody is part of the team, and everybody have a collective responsibility in the decisions that will be made. So this is important that the members be aware that this is something that you really want to give it to the organization.
Well, I can't agree with you more, Yasmin. You know, it's really, really important that people understand that when they take on this responsibility, it is a huge responsibility to serve the organization as a whole, not to self-serve, but also to bring to the table the experience that you'd like to build on and mentor. Because one of the factors in our mission statement is that we mentor. So when you're on an executive or elected executive, you also have the role of not only doing the work, but mentoring as well. And it's very different than a corporate executive. This is completely different, as you've said. It's a voluntary organization, which brings to mind why and how do we elect the members who serve on the executive. And that's where the membership really needs to take heed. Because in a corporate setting, when people are being selected for a board, it is a very in-depth vetting process where it requires personal references, it requires going into their character, it requires going into their experience, and so on. In our organization, we generally don't do that. We do only by knowing the presence of somebody. Oh, you've been a member for so many years of this organization, and well, we think that you are very nice and that, you know, you are probably going to do a good job. So what's important for, I think, our membership to really understand in this process is that the people you are electing for these positions as officers must bring to the table some board experience, not just that you would like to run and you never have. And why is that important? Because it is a collective executive. Therefore, it should bring together all of the experiences and all of the knowledge of the organization, serving at what we would call the international level, which is very different than serving at a local level. But also that we have to remember that as an international organization at that level are made up of multicultural people, lots of differences, different languages, and so on. So the issue here is that we need to be really diligent about choosing, when we elect these officers to our executive, who will then collectively manage the organization with all of the mandates coming together. So I'll hand it over to you, Yasmin, now, and just maybe talk to us a little bit about what the role of the president should be, and then I will carry on with some of the other officers. But since you are the immediate past, let's hear from you as to what you think the president should do in her duties.
Yeah, well, first of all, our governance documents are very clear about the duties of each of our executive members. And that is why I cannot stress more for the members to read what is in our governance. So there is no misunderstandings about the role in our governance documents. Is clear. The role of the president is to lead, to guide, to set goals, to plan, to monitor, to listen, to negotiate, to communicate, to recognize efforts and achievements, to speak for and maintain the public image of BPW International, and oversee and provide the accountability for all planning, operational, and outreach activities. And well, when the president became immediate past president, our role is to guide the new executive and work with the executive secretary of my term, in this case, the immediate past president term, to do the Congress proceedings, and with the finance officer to finalize the Congress accounts. So we have to be aware that the role of the president, that is something that this is a good phrase for me that I always try to keep during my presidency, is the president preside, the executive decide. So this is very important to know that the president is the member of the executive that have no power at all. The executive is the one who decide what to do. The president can place an idea, someone can take it and place a motion, and then the executive decide if in agreement, if it's good or not for the organization. So we need to be clear about it, because we are in a democratic organization, and the amount of work that the president have to do is really impressive. But the most important is to be aware what the members want, to be in touch with the affiliates all around the world, in the 5 regions, and take care also of the needs of the executive, and to ensure the continuity, and also to ensure the future of BPW International. This is in general what for me is the role of the international president.
Couldn't agree with you more, Yasmin. I think everybody who is wishing or desiring to serve the organization needs to study and carry with them at all times our governance documents, to guide them and to lead them as to, you know, whether things are going well or not, because that is the at least the tools that you use to lead with fairness, to lead with humility. As long as we follow the rules, then everybody's fine. We can't choose favorites. The rules are the same. Just like in any sports game, the rules are the same, no matter who you are, what you do. So I think that in itself is something that even goes down to the membership, is the members also need to understand our governance documents, because it's part of keeping everything in line. When the members know and understand the rules and governance of the organization, then they also can keep the elected officers accountable if things are not going well. And sometimes they don't go well. And it's up to the members then, who have the power, because the members have the power in the organization, to actually bring attention to that. But I think going back to the roles, so the president, just to add one more thing from what you have said, is I think that she needs to lead with harmony. And that's a very important role on a multinational, multicultural executive board. It requires lots of patience because of language issues sometimes, or just cultural issues. So it requires patience. And therefore, I can't stress enough that the president not only has all the duties that you said that she should have, but that she's also always in mentoring mode also. Remember, those other people on the executive may also want to serve continuously and lead up to being a vice president membership or being the president. And so how you lead by example is truly how you set the foundation for great leadership in an organization that could be admired and that could be followed. So I think that is important for everybody to really kind of dial into and think about. So I'm going to choose the next officer that I think is critically important for the executive is the executive secretary. Now, down at the local level, we call the secretary. And what does she do? She basically takes notes and minutes, and she distributes that amongst the members so people really know it at all times what is going on. However, at the international level, which remember, this is the last stop on the international platform. I mean, this is the highest you could go. So we do require, of course, much more from these officers, much more. But for the executive secretary, and the reason she's called the executive secretary is because she's in charge of everything legal, governance, and constitutional. So the executive secretary has a very, very critical and important role to make sure that everything is going well in the organization, not only on the executive, but in the organization. She's the person who has complete knowledge of our governance documents, enforces them when things are not being enforced, make sure that voting is done well, that any issues that are being addressed are being done according to our rules, our regulations, our procedure manuals, and so on. So it's a very, very important role. And I also see the executive secretary as being the key communicator at the executive. She makes sure that all the communications are being done between the executive members, the officers, also, of course, which includes our regional coordinators. As an organization, we have 5 regions and a coordinator elected to each of those regions. So they're also included in this. That is coming in a further webinar, but they all should be included in information and all kinds of issues that are being addressed at the executive. She also has this huge responsibility of making sure that an agenda, which is set every year by our rules, that the executive have a face-to-face meeting. And this meeting, in my term as international president, and in your term as president, I'm sure, it took 5 days of meetings. 5 full days. We worked solidly from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m., sometimes to stop for meals, and that was it. But we worked solidly for 5 days. Why? It's a very big world that we have to manage. There's a lot of issues going on in the advocacy levels, the membership levels, the regional levels, the financial levels. All of those issues have to be managed and addressed with a face-to-face executive meeting. And so the executive secretary has the additional role of making sure the agenda is done and followed and minuted. So actually at the international level, we can't just have the executive secretary serve alone. She has to have an assistant. And we call that the assistant executive secretary. And that person is usually funded somehow because, they're not elected. They're appointed, but certainly they're there to help the executive secretary take minutes, because how is it possible for an executive secretary to be completely engaged in an official meeting and not and be taking notes and not be able to vote and think and manage. So that part of her job has to be minuted, has to be taken by somebody else so she can be fully engaged in what's going on, and of course make sure that parliamentary procedure is being followed and that voting and motions and all of those things are being done in the proper manner. So it's a very, very important job. And of course, we do have people in our organization who love to do those kind of things. They are parliamentarians. They love to study the parliamentary procedures. And that's historically how we manage our organization. It's a very, very fair way for everybody to have a voice and for the organization to be managed in a very official way. So that's sort of the quick deal for me on the executive secretary's role. So Yasmin, you can probably pick up on something I may have missed, or then go on to one of the others executives.
Well, as you know, I've been executive secretary 2014, 2017. And because I really love all about the governance in BPW International. And it is a very hard job. You really need to be fully involved in all our governance documents, because you are, let's say, like the sheriff that say, no. Excuse me, Madam President, you cannot do this. According to our constitution, this is the way to do these things. You have not this power. So you are the one who really rule the executive according the governance. So the executive secretary role is very important. Here, I can say that the experience and knowledge about the governance and also about history and parliamentarian rules are essential for this job. If you just arrive and let's see so then you will not have an executive running according the governance. I have many experience with previous executive secretaries that they stop many actions of the president, and they said, just, I'm so sorry you didn't ask for the approval of the executive, so this is not right, and that's it. So really is the sheriff of the executive, and need to be very strong. And for sure, I have to repeat that with a lot of knowledge about our governance documents. It's not an easy job at all. And sometimes we also, according the procedure manual, the executive secretary also advise the Constitution Advisory Committee. So can you imagine that we have a Constitution Advisory Committee, but one of the duties of the executive secretary also is to advise the Constitution Advisory Committee. So that means, and we work very close with the Constitution Advisory Committee, but the executive secretary is an elect member. The Constitution Advisory Committee is an appointed
positions. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Right.
So
right.
We have to be aware of it, and really the responsibility of the executive secretary is a huge one.
Great. So I'll go on to the other offices now, and I will go with secondly what I think is important, or thirdly for me as a businesswoman. I'm very much in tune with how business runs as we go with the finance officer. So it used to be that it was called the finance officer, and we've recently changed that to the executive finance officer as the title. So this person, of course, is clearly in charge of a lot of things. Budgets that we approve at the General Assembly. Usually our General Assembly, being held every 3 years, approves a blanket budget for the organization for the 3 years, the triennium, till the next General Assembly. That's based on the facts at that time. The membership number, the anticipated income from dues, because as we all know, we are a dues-driven organization only. And therefore, we have to manage that well, because there is no other monies coming in from anywhere else. And so that's based on the facts at that point, where on the members at that critical time of the General Assembly, the future budget is done. Now, every year from then on, the Executive Finance Officer has to, at the face-to-face meeting of the executive, present the annual budget, because numbers change, things change. We could have more income, we could have less income, we could have more members, less members. So therefore, we can have members that aren't able to pay, and that happens a lot in the international world. They can't get money out of their countries, and so that gives the executive not enough funding to rely on. So that budget has to be then presented to the executive. The executive have the responsibility to adopt the budget and all the line items that it covers. Travel for the officers who are required to travel and visit the affiliates. And it's also required to pay for services. We have things like every organization should have. We should have an administrator in the president's office who takes care of communications. We have websites and people that maintain our websites and things like that need budgets to do. We also need to run an office. And our organization has chosen some time ago to not have a fixed brick and mortar office or building anymore, which we used to have in London, but we do now have the office move with the president. And that requires that she has an assistant, of course, and the office has to manage the organization with the president leading it. So the executive finance officer, if you look at our governance documents, has probably just as an important role as the executive secretary, because as women, we want to know where the money goes. You know, we've all been used to our mothers keeping that little jar with all the monies that went in that jar. She knew exactly where every penny went. And as an organization, I think as women, we tend to think that way too. We have not quite been liberated, and that's why we have equal pay day, and we constantly lament about the fact that women are not paid the same as men. Therefore, our income is critically important to be able to be sure that it's being spent in the right way. So the Executive Finance Officer's duties, if you look at our governance documents, is enormous. She has lots of reporting to do. She should have a finance team around her to be sure that she is also covering all of the duties according to the governance documents, and they are there to support her. We also have a team, of course, made up of especially some people with knowledge of accounting. And of course, definitely the Executive Finance Office should know accounting, or even be an accountant, serve an actual practicing accountant, because managing an organization like this is not like the local treasurer who just takes the dues in and spends a little money. This is way bigger. This is almost corporate level stuff, where we require audit statements. We require all of these reports to be done. We as members want to see profit and loss, making sure that we are in good standing, our organization, that we're financially viable. And she needs to assure us that those things are going on. So that is another very important role. And I think maybe you might want to add a few more things to that, Yasmin.
Well, yes, I think that the finance officer should be a member with a solid knowledge about finances, and now with the online banking, that it's I have to say, I am not good on this. And to keep the budget as it is as approved during the General Assembly. What that means that during the General Assembly, we approve line items, yeah, with different subjects. For example, President Office, how much is for the executive members, for the budget of the executive members, the budget for UN, etc. So what that means that the executive is not allowed to add any budget item.
Mm-hmm.
But every year, the finance officer says, well, you know what, in the assembly, it was approved this budget, but guess what? The membership decreased. So we approve a budget according 300,000 income, but the reality is that we have 200,000 euros as an income. So we have to modify the figures, not the budget items, but the figures according this number. And then we can say, guess what? We realized that we didn't spend so much in the budget item President Office, and we expect not to spend more than what we spent this year. So we can move, for example, if we have 10,000 in President Office, then we can say, okay, let's, what is lacking of or short of, so we can move 2,000 for membership services, for example. So you can do this, yeah, but you cannot change this. And every single year you have to review this. During my term, what I try to do is to reduce the sum of the expenses, to give it a little bit more to the executive members, especially to the regional coordinators. A little bit of increment every year, because they are really the ones who have to work with the members. At least is their job to be in charge. And we know that we have some regions, very large regions, and the regional coordinator should be traveling to visit them or whatever, or maybe support their members to attend some meetings. So this is very important. I have the experience with my finance officer that unfortunately, as you know, she was very sick and she passed away during my term. So it was a very, a little bit difficult because her health conditions, but she was very, very tough. We have to understand that the finance officer, it is the one who approves all the expenses. Not that she received a invoice from the president just to pay. No way. She is the one who said, excuse me, Madam President, I cannot approve this because it's not in the aligned to the budget. That happened to me once. I sent the invoice of the air ticket, and I don't know why the airline, the office,
Agent. Yeah.
the agent sent me a separate invoice of the insurance, travel insurance. So Joanne said to me, approve the air ticket, not approve the insurance. And I said, what? Why, Joanne? Because it's not a line item to insurance for the president. So
Right.
this
That's
is finance officer.
Finance officers have to be really tough, and I think we as an organization rely on them to actually carry out due diligence with the finances, saying that nothing gets paid without a proper receipt or an invoice or so on, so that, well, that's required anyway for the auditors. The auditors would want to see that those receipts are present,
Yeah.
because you can't make an audit statement without having the backup. Every accountant has that too, even when you do your taxes. So I think we're kind of used to that, but it's just for the knowledge of the members to know that there really is very good accountability with the expenses of the organization and how it's done. So, and you're right, sometimes you can be flexible with the budget when you have to adjust it. The line items are fixed. But you can adjust the amount on the line item according to the income, so that you can manage the budget. Most importantly, you have to stay within budget.
Yeah, the other thing is that every 6 months, you have to review the staff performance. It's also a duty of the finance officer. If someone of the staff is not working, you don't have to pay for it. It's not like they already been appointed and forever. No, you can. This is part of the duties. So it's really to take in account that the finance officer is who say yes or not for every single cent that is expended, because it's the members' money. And if you have an employee in your house that is doing nothing, you will not pay. So you have to act in this way, and to keep the accountability of the organization. And I think it's a very big job, and that is why we elect individually each member of the executive. So they were elected by the assembly. They are not serving the president or any of the members. They are serving BPW International because they were elected in an assembly.
Right. So I can conclude with that, just to say that, of course, the members are really who own the organization. The members own the organization. And so one of the duties of the executive finance officer is to distribute this information to the international board. Now, the international board of our organization is made up of every elected president and a delegate in an affiliate around the world. So generally, it is around 200 people, generally. Okay, that can change a little bit on the number of affiliates. So the executive finance officer is required to send statements of the status of our finances every 6 months and at the end of every year to the international board, for them to see that things are going well and that there's no surprises, that there is everything is going according to how they wanted it to be, the budgets are being followed. And then at the end of every year, at least 30 or 60 days after the end of the year, the auditors come in and do an audit so that it is totally officially done. And that's another important part of her job, is to keep the membership and the international board, who have really the highest governing body, they are the highest governing body of the organization, to keep them informed of the status of the finances. So Yasmin, I think what we should do now is just quickly talk about the 2 vice presidents. I'll start with that. So we also have 2 vice presidents, and they're generally called a first and a second. Why is that so? The first vice president is the one who received the most votes when they were elected, because the vice presidents are elected together. And the one with the most votes usually becomes the first. That means that the first vice president, as in every parliamentary procedure and in every organization, takes over if something happens with the president. She may be incapacitated, she may be ill, she may have to take a leave of absence for very good reasons. And so the first vice president has to lead along with the second vice president. So in our case, we have 2 vice presidents, which then choose a mandate of taking care of membership or of advocacy. I will quickly talk about, how about if I talk about the United Nations and our advocacy, Yasmin, because I served as a delegate to the United Nations for 20 years for our organization. And that was a wonderful experience. So the Vice President of Advocacy, of course, manages our advocacy platform around the world, is very much connected with the United Nations and all of its agencies around the world. As we know, we have 5 agencies. We have it in New York, we have it in Vienna, we have it in Paris, and we have it in Geneva. So those are our headquarters, and we have permanent members there who represent us as permanent representatives to those agencies and the bodies as a whole. So the Vice President in charge of advocacy manages the UN reps, makes sure that we have knowledge going on of our advocacy efforts. We, of course, very much align with the United Nations. We are currently working on the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals that we align with as an organization, which covers everything from empowerment of women to taking care of the land and water and safe water, and to eradicate poverty, and all of those things that are very important to us as members and as women. So the Vice President of Advocacy oversees those things. And then generally also we oversee the biggest event that we have in our organization annually, called the Commission on Status of Women. BPW International has a long history with that, because we actually were one of the original organizations to initiate the Commission on Status of Women, which is held at the United Nations in New York every year in March. And so for that, we have members coming from around the world who can be accredited to be a delegate and participate in that process of that commission. So it's very interesting, a great educational experience for many who've never been to the United Nations to see how things work. And moreover, you are joined there by thousands of other NGOs. Of course, we are considered an NGO, a non-governmental organization. And so we are joined at the UN by thousands of other NGOs from around the world. So the dynamic and the experience for our members to experience that is really a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to see exactly what other organizations are doing on the topic that is chosen for the Commission on Status of Women, because each year the topic will change. So that's her duty. And of course, if anything happens to the president, she will also step in and take that role if she happens to be the first vice president. So that kind of in a summarized form takes care of the vice president of advocacy. So maybe if I've missed something, you can add to that, Yasmin, but whichever other one you want to do membership.
Yes, the vice president membership, of course, the main duty is to be aware of the members' needs and what they are doing, increase the membership, find the way that to open new clubs in different countries that there is no BPW, and also how to maintain our membership. That you know that sometimes there is in the world things happen and
wars. There can be a war, and there can be all kinds of bad things going on in countries where we have members.
Yeah, and the membership decrease. So we have to find a way to improve our strategics. And this is one of the jobs of the vice president membership. When it was Jill Warbeck, a membership vice president, 2014, 2017, it was created the current membership guide. And it was every year we add something or improve this information. But I think that it's a very good tool for the members. And I just want to mention a little bit that in the past, it was the election of vice president. That's it. So the one who have more votes decide what she wants, membership or UN, like a game. And the one who got the less votes have to be the one the other doesn't want. So now, no, that changed, and you run for vice president membership or for vice president UN. At the end of these two elections, then is the winners goes for another vote to decide which of them became the first vice president, which means the one who will lead the organization in the case of the president. Something happened with her, whatever it is, in absence or resign or whatever. So the first vice president. So that is why it was decided that we cannot just say the one who have more votes, because sometimes we have 4 or 5 candidates for vice president. So now it's separate election, vice president UN, vice president membership. The winners goes for first or second. In fact, there is no second vice president, but anyway, is the position of first vice president is clearly stated in our governance.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. I just want to make sure that we also understand that the vice president is not the VP of the UN. Because the UN is this agency on its own. So it's actually our Vice President of Advocacy, which includes the United Nations in her mandate of doing the work there. So I just want to make sure that our members understand that as well. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up what we believe to be, important roles for the executive to take on. So what I'll do is just give a little bit of a closing statement, and then you can too, Yasmin, after that. But I just want our members to understand that working on an executive board is a very, very big responsibility. Don't take it on if you're not willing to put everything you can into it. It's a big world, and you're actually managing a lot of things around the world in an organization. So you have to be ready for it. So be sure that you have the knowledge and the skills and the desire and the drive, because you need a lot of drive. There's a lot of late nights. We work as an international organization across many time zones, and you have to be there, and you have to be able to do that. But importantly is, please know your governance documents. Those should be in your suitcase or in your briefcase with you at all times. You should be referring to those documents at every meeting so that you are completely familiar with them to guide you in every decision that you make. Decisions are made for the future of the organization, not just for the moment. They have very big impacts for our organization long term, and so they should be taken very, very seriously. So we work on an executive as a whole, collectively. It is not just one person, it is a collective group, and therefore there should be no self-serving on that. It should be totally a giving of your time, your knowledge, and be willing to build the organization and leave it in a better place than you found it. Mm-hmm. So in addition to your mandate that you were elected to, you're there to collectively work on the board, learn. You may want to run for another office after that, and generally our executive do that. So be sure that you set an example about serving on a board, and that takes some doing, as we've said in the beginning, with different cultures, different languages, and so on. So just some important things to think. And the last thing I want to just focus on is very, very big. And that is the word called respect. You know, you can't serve unless you respect each other. And every person on an executive has been, as President Yasmin said, has been elected by the whole membership of the General Assembly. Therefore, they are there elected by the members. And they have as much power collectively as anybody on the executive. Collectively, they're all in power, not just one person. So respect is very, very important that they follow to serve in harmony and to make sure that it's productive and that they get the job done that the executive has been elected to do. And finally, definitely to leave it in a better place. And you can only do that with respect for each other, no matter what. So I think that concludes it for me, Yasmin. How about from you?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you. Please just, as you said, it's very clear in the governance that the executive have a collective responsibility. So they have to act in this way, because you cannot say at the end of a triennium, the president said that, and that's it. No, it's not the president. You have a responsibility. So every single member of the executive, which means the 5 regional coordinators, the Young BPW, and the 5 that we talked today, they all are responsible of every single thing that happened in BPW International. So this is something that everybody has to be very clear. It's not that, for example, the regional coordinators to say, oh no, my region is okay. No. You are in the executive. You have to be accountable of everything that happened around the world, not only in your region. So we have to be very clear of it. We really need, sometimes I hear when I said, oh, please read the Constitution. Oh, yes, I already printed. Okay, read it. It's not good enough that you print it and you have in your suitcase. No. So really, if you want to be in a position, again, local, regional, or international, you really need to be very aware what means your duties and what if you are able to follow it, or you just want to be there to be in the picture and maybe travel, know more people, or whatever, which is not the reason to serve in BPW International. So please take time. And also, when you decide to elect someone, it's not a friendship. It's not because he's my friend, it's because she's so nice, she gave it to me, a little present. No. We are really in a business and professional women organization. We really need to see the CVs, the experience, it's not only that someone called me. Guess what? I want you to vote for my friend. And, you know, this is very, also it's an insult for the members to do that. So please just take the time, the ones who wants to be part of this great organization, and the ones who have the big responsibility to press the button and elect the members of your executive, local, regional, or international.
So we've had almost 100 years. We look forward to another 100 years. We certainly hope that this has been a useful and a webinar of some value for you. And if you have any questions, we're available. You can find us in our directories. I think you know me, you know Yasmin, so anytime give us a question. We'd love to answer them for you. So with that, we'll say thank you so much and bye-bye.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
A great thank you to our speakers today on the roles of the executive officers. We heard from Dr. Yasmin Darwich, immediate past international president, and Elizabeth Benham, also a past international president. Each of them have served in other roles on the international executive prior to becoming president, and they have also served on their national and local executives in addition. The roles of these officers are very clearly outlined in our governance documents, as Liz said in the beginning, and they didn't go into great detail on that. So you certainly want to read those governance documents if you haven't already, or reread them if you have, because we as members are charged with holding the officers accountable to their positions. If they're failing in their positions or not fulfilling their duties, we need to be aware of that. And the only way we can is if we understand the roles. 2, if you want to be a candidate for one of these roles, you need to understand very deeply what it involves, what those responsibilities and duties are, because otherwise you may be unprepared. Our speakers talked about the type of personality, the type of character traits that are ideal for serving in these roles or for serving on executive in general. And that's something we all really want to take to heart, not only as candidates, but as delegates voting for people, for our executives, so that we can have the best possible people in these roles. And we always thank them for their dedication to our organization. We want to thank you too, as the viewer, coming to this video, watching our other videos in this channel, we hope. There are many by now, and we invite you to see them all. And we also want to invite you and your BPW sisters to join us in our upcoming webinars, which we hold once a month, which are in real time, transmitted live, and with an audience. So we invite you to participate in that. Thanks so much, and we hope to see you at a BPW function and here online again very soon. Bye for now.